Écoute mon cœur, où es-tu maintenant? Il s'agit d'attendre toute ma vie.
Depending on resistances, things like that, what have you, this thing is going to deal damage from ranging from 4k to 6k damage, which is just filthy, and I love it. I thought that you weren't able to do like really broken things in Lies of P, but hey, I just proved me wrong. I've been using this thing and it melts down bosses, especially that one that is giving you issues. You know which one I'm referring to, the final secret one. Yeah, this is going to work wonders against that guy because of the staggered potential that we have with this belt. The thing is that it's not only going to have that on-demand damage, it's also going to be very self-sufficient when it comes to exploring and playing around throughout the playthrough that you are going to have with the game. So that being said, I'm going to show you the weapon, the setup, the skills that we have to be using, some little tips and tricks to make this thing a little bit more viable and to make it stronger and things like that. So that being said, let's begin with the weapon. Now, the weapon of choice is going to be a mixture of in-between things. The bad thing is that it's a late game weapon, really late game weapon. As a matter of fact, it's like it's just nearing the ending of the game. The one that we're speaking about is the Mjolnir head right here. We're going to be pairing that with the Krat Police Platoon handle, which you can see right there. What this allows us to do is that it doesn't have huge range, but it is a very heavy damaging weapon with a really fast attack moveset that it wouldn't have that moveset if you have this thing paired up with the original thing. So it really is fast attacking, it deals quite a lot of stagger damage, so as a combo it is actually quite amazing. If you build it properly, you're going to have nearly to 400 physical attack damage, which is huge if you compare it with many of the different weapons that we have in this game. Amazing thing as well is that we have 71.47 damage reduction rate while guarding. That's amazing because that allows you to have a little bit more of guard. Although it is a very heavy weapon at 17.9, so you're going to have to be toying around with your defense spots, although I do advise for you to play some points into capacity to be able to use the heaviest armor while using this weapon, which is very heavy as well. Now there's nothing too special about the weapon, light attacks, heavy attacks, none of that is going to be too special. What it is going to be special is that if you add a strength handle, motivity handle to your police platoon, that is going to give you a into strength scaling, a into motivity scaling, whatever you want to call it. That said, we're going to be focusing on strength, and that's how we get that amazing damage. The combo though that we are getting from the Krat Police Platoon is that, remember, the Krat Police Platoon, that is what is giving us that A motivity. The damage that we are getting is from the Mjolnir, but the scaling it's from the Krat Police Platoon. Now the Krat Police Platoon is going to have strike chance, temporarily increases your attacks for the next hits. It basically doubles your damage on the next attack that you deal. The Fable attack that we have on the Mjolnir is this beautiful thing, which is Thunder Strike. It deals like 3k damage, give it or take, and that's cool. It also imbues your weapon, but if you pair it up with this thing, we actually deal double the damage that we initially did. Now that's 4,500. You might be guessing, then why are we getting the 6k? Where are we getting the 6k from? Well, from one of the most broken elements in the game, which is shock, electricity. When you shock someone, you basically increase the damage they take, both on posture damage and damage they take natively. So if you first shock an enemy, and then you buff your weapon, and then finally use this thing, that is going to be a beautiful, amazing 6k damage, which is tremendous amounts of damage. The cool thing about this is that this also has hyper armor, so the enemy, there are two little things in this game that have hyper armor. There are not so many things that are going to have hyper armor. That is one of the downsides of Liza PP, but this does, so that's actually quite amazing. So you're not going to be wasting your Fable slots right there, and that is one of the other advices that I wanted to give you by playing this build. So we're going to be focusing quite a lot of Fable when it comes to our P organs, to regain as much Fable as possible. But also do not be afraid of using your Fable catalysts, because the Fable catalysts, they are very common, and if I have to be fairly honest with you, during my first playthrough I never touched them because I didn't think that they were important. How mistaken I was. That's one of the best advices that I can give you. Use your Fable odds. They are the things that make your character broken, and you can abuse them if you pair them up with your P organ and if you're using your Fable catalyst. At the end of my first playthrough, I had 60 Fable catalysts laying around on my inventory that I could be using to be doing those beautiful, powerful, heavy attacks that we have as Fable. So that's something that you need to have in mind. That said, we do need to have electricity on demand, and there's two ways that we're going to have access to that. My favorite and my main one, and this is something that we are going to be taking on the P organ as well, is the Electric Blitz Grindstone. This temporarily imbues the weapon that you have with the Electric Blitz. To have in mind also that the Fable art of the weapon is going to negate this one, so you have to make sure that you use this thing first, and then once the enemy is electrified, now you can cast that beautiful storm. That said, we do have a second option. Fulminous is not my favorite Legion arm. I have to be fairly honest with you. The reason for that being is because it leaves you open for way too long. It takes too long for you to charge it, although you can drop it as soon as you feel that you're going to get damage. The cool thing about it is that it also scales with strength, which is an ideal thing, and this guy is going to give us electricity on demand. If you manage to time it properly, you are going to be inflicting the shock status on the enemies in just one single charge of this thing, which is ideal. It's amazing. Now the stats that we are going to have, like I said, we're going to need quite a lot of capacity, as you can see right here. Motivity, that is going to be our main damage stats. I would say that you should be focusing on Motivity while you are leveling up. Like I said, this is an endgame thing, but if you're leveling up as a Motivity thing, then might as well get this to 20 by the second boss, and then you raise Vitality, Vigor, Capacity 15 evenly, then you raise that Motivity to 40, and then you can start focusing on the Vitality and then Capacity. You are going to need quite a lot of capacity because of the heavy weapon that we are using, although it is really not that necessary. And as for Vitality, for the first playthrough, you are just going to need like 30, that's more than enough. Bigger, 20, that's more than enough. You can be placing the rest of your points into capacity. You are going to be purely because we want to be mid-rolling, like you see right here. But as for the amulets, one thing that I like to do, and this is a personal preference, I'd not like to have to be relying on my reflexes for the fury attacks, so I like to use the Ghost Walk amulet. That is going to make us slightly heavy. So since we are going to be using this amulet, we are going to actually be quite heavy. You can furthermore increase the damage of this thing if you have the amulet that increases the damage after you perfect guard, and that is going to be that much more heavy as well. But the main things that I always like to have as well is Patience Amulet, Carrier's Amulet +1 to increase that carry weight limits, and then depending on whatever you're fighting, either the Puppet Destroyer's Amulet, the Carcass one, or the human one, depending on what you're fighting. Now, as for the P organs, you're going to need Fable slots. That is going to be a focus. Now, you only need one of these guys. You don't really have to pick the second one. If you have 4 Fable slots, that's going to be more than enough for you to be able to make the combo. So we do want to take these 2 guys right here. I also would like for you to take the Grindstone one, purely to have that extra electricity on demand a little bit better without having to rely on the Fulminis that much, because like I said, Fulminis, it's just very, very dangerous to be using that thing. It's very low reliable, whereas this thing gives you control over it, because this goes into your weapon and you have control of the battlefield and the combat flow that you have right there. Now, as for the upgrades that you are going to be taking, focus on everything Fable Arts. Always focus everything Fable Arts. Like, for example, enhanced Fable's arts damage. Perfect Guard Fable charge Fable when you are using Perfect Guards, if you're using Perfect Guards. All in all, just focus everything on enhancing your capabilities to recharge that Fable Arts. Because what this build is going to allow you to do is that those annoying elites enemies, you know that sometimes the mini-bosses in this game are harder than the bosses. This thing can one-shot them, so you don't really have to be worrying about them anymore. And you can potentially two-shot bosses as well with this thing if you play it properly. If you're using your Fable slots, if you're recharging your Fable properly with your damage. And all in all, it's a kind of Fable purely focused build, but that shouldn't deter you of the actual effectiveness of this character. Because when it comes to the Mjolnir is just an amazing weapon to be exploring around, because it deals tremendous amounts of posture damage. It's one of the highest damaging weapons in the game, so that is something nice. The range has something left to be desired in that, but the damage compensates for that, and the speed also, because it is actually going to attack quite fast. Anyways, if you like the content, like and really super appreciate it. Now, I told you today that you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You're into the gorgeous and beautiful person. I will be seeing you goddamn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel before we close the door, and I'll be seeing you goddamn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Have a beautiful day and goodbye.
Tu reviendras un jour, un jour. Écoute mon cœur, je t'attendrai même.